Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin, joined by Mr. Barrett Dudley today to discuss Season 4, Episode 5 of Succession titled Kill List. Barrett.
Yes, indeed.
Last week I said Episodes 3 and 4 were the best 2-episode stretch in series history.
You're just adding this one to the run?
Today I'm saying 3 through 5 is one of the best 3-episode stretches in the history of television.
Can they keep it going? Can they just keep it going?
I believe.
Straight through. Si se puede.
All the way to the end?
I believe that we will win. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, the clearly what is going on is that the writers, they gorged themselves on delicious Scandi spreads. And then they looked at themselves and they said, let's do the tightrope walk on a straight razor. And then they got in that room, and guess what, Ross? They didn't do the bad version.
Yeah, we'll obviously get into the details of what occurred in Episode 5 shortly, but at the halfway point of this final season, this is shaping out to be Succession's best season yet, and one of the most all-around entertaining, well-written, well-acted, hilarious, brutal, and captivating seasons, to me, of anything I've ever watched on TV. Ever. So let's go choose our own adventure, full bore, fuck the living shit out of this thing. What do you say, Barrett?
Yes.
Quad squad type shit.
Quad squad type shit.
All right, we cold open this episode.
The family.
The family. The fuck? We cold open this episode with Jay-Z's Takeover blaring through Kendall's speakers.
We running this rap
as
shit.
He's driving to work.
Man, bleep. We running this rap shit.
It's a great song.
Yes, and I hope everybody listening, tuning into the podcast, didn't need the inside of the episode for this to flag as literally the way the first episode opens, with Kendall in the car, banging rap music, getting himself psyched up on a day that he believes he will be appointed the new CEO.
That he'll be taking over.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, there were the lyrics they chose there at the beginning of the song to hear in the episode were obviously very intentional. Kendall plus rap equals vibes. Almost Office Space vibes. But
yes,
incredible
but
vibes.
Incredible vibes. And, I've got to ask, I'm sure we would have gotten this phone call for Patreon, but I'm going to step on it anyways. When you are, you're in the back of the car and you are on your way to take over as CEO of Oystar Clam Co.
Yeah.
What rap song are you listening to?
Ooh.
And why is it Zero Mo City Dawn?
Because that's the song I choose for every intense moment in my life. No, I mean, honestly, this one would have been up there. Like, this is one of my favorite Jay-Z songs.
You know what Jay-Z song I've been listening to a lot lately? I don't know why.
99 Problems.
No. The PSA.
That's a great one too.
Public service announcement.
Yeah.
So that's in the top of my mind right now. I also feel like Eminem, Till I Collapse is like an all-time psych yourself up banger.
That's the number one song on my workout playlist still. Like today. Like I could show you right now.
But yeah, it's really, really fun. And I just immediately, the show is just so smart. And right off the bat with this scene, Kendall, so much swag walking out of the car and walking into the building. It's phenomenal. It's basically like, it felt like it was almost snubbing its nose at everybody that's like, you can't just reset. You can't just redo this shit over again. It was like, watch us, bitch. Because this time, it is a reset. It is a restart. We're right back where we started from, except for there is no Logan to step in Kendall's way now.
This time it's real.
This time it's real for as long as it'll be real. But this time there is nobody is walking through that door after having gone piss mad or having a stroke and saying, guess who's Bazat?
Great reference.
So
OCC, we run in this rap shit. No, you're not wrong. And I think the amount of callbacks to season 1 kind of splattered throughout this fourth season, this final season. At this point, with yet another one here in episode 5, I'm with you. I think they were it's kind of sending a message. It's, in one way it's sort of artsy, take things back to where they started.
Of course, the callbacks.
But in the other, there were people like me for the last 2 seasons being like, yo, what, are we just going to do the same shit every fucking year? Can you come up with something else? And they really, really have. Like, it is like we've stressed in past weeks, it's the same thing, but with a totally different angle,
right, yes.
New spins in every direction.
Yep.
And I've been loving it so far. So Kendall enters the building and is immediately met by Hugo, who is like sucking up hard to try and keep himself protected from this insider trading shit that he's gotten into with his daughter. First question, Barrett, did you feel like the bad dad PR angle that Kendall chose at the end of episode 4 played out like you expected? Like, because I thought there was going to be fireworks, like Roman would be extremely pissed off, clearly think that Kendall went behind his back. Like,
no, it played out in this episode how I expected it to, which was that he wasn't going to get caught immediately in this little wrinkle. That
he kind of plays it off,
but it's nodded to, and
a couple of times
there are some furtive glances.
Yeah,
and we'll see if it comes back up again. It probably will. I feel like it will, but no, I didn't think that that he was immediately gonna be like, indicted basically by his siblings, being like, "Hey, what'd you do? I thought we decided against that."
Yeah.
Like,
you bastard.
You're right.
Yeah. Kendall gets a fairly rousing round of applause upon entering the floor. Like, dudes were drumming on tables
very
and shit.
Wolf of Wall Street, like one of us type thing going
hype
on here.
I liked it.
What do they call the new assistants? They're the Roman names them something really funny. Like the grief something, or I'm fucking it
condolence
up,
assistants.
Yeah.
Kendall suggests to Roman that the old guard is loading them up with human listening devices, which Roman refers to as condolence assistants.
Condolence assistants, yeah.
So throughout this episode, speaking of which, you really get the feeling that the old guard being on the outside looking in makes them extremely uncomfortable. They're like trying to find their place, trying to get their footing in the new regime, and really trying to make sure that this deal goes through so that they can get their packages, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the overarching
deal
here.
And we'll talk about it towards the end of the episode, but just to get ahead of it here, it was interesting how like you've got the older guys like Frank and Carl that are ready to drop out of the plane in their golden parachutes.
Yes.
They're okay with being on said kill list.
Yeah.
And then you've got guys like Ray and Hugo and Katerina, the younger members of the old guard that want to retain their jobs.
I don't think they've got enough stock yet.
They don't have enough stock yet. Exactly. It's not enough to give them the quote unquote golden parachute.
Right. Kendall asks the Romy A team, "What's bubbling?" Short range, top lines. And we get into this Kalispitron movie storyline, which comes up repeatedly in this episode and eventually gets shown to the Swedes. Apparently they sank $225 million into this dog shit movie already, and it's a fucking sleepy robot in a cave, and there are reshoots, panicky vibes. The second producer signed off on leave, citing mental collapse / overload. So it sounds really bad. I mean, you hear stories like this about Hollywood all the time, right? They shoot really big, go on some huge venture with a several $100 million movie budget, and then things don't go the way that they were supposed to. Everything falls apart, and it's a huge loss. Carl and Jerry come in to meet the CE Bros, which Roman announces by saying, "Here we go, March of the Emperor Penguins." And is it just me, or do Carl and Jerry actually look like Emperor penguins, kind of? Like, that was like a perfect line. When they walked in, I was like, holy shit, they do kind of look like penguins. Great line from Roman. And Roman tells them that they already did their check-in with the board call and the follow-up call and their 33,000 emails. So again, you get the feeling the old guard is really helicoptering right over these two, trying to make sure things go as they should.
Mom and Dad just checking to make sure they've got food in the fridge.
Yeah.
Loved that line too.
And Kendall and Roman are very resistant to being like handheld.
Yep.
They want to feel like they can handle it, right?
That's right.
And show these guys that they can handle it. So Shiv comes in and asks if she missed the invite, and from the get-go here, you can tell she feels pretty left out of the conversations and such.
And Roman seems keen on fulfilling his promise, for keeping her across everything, keeping her included on all the big picture stuff, all the high level meetings. You can already feel Kendall bumping on it and wanting to kind of like be like, no, we don't need to call her in. She's fine.
Can Pinky dance?
Right.
Yeah. Everyone suddenly gets an email from Matson, who is now requesting that all of them go to Norway. Division heads, a bunch of executive vice presidents, EVPs. And he actually sent a list of names, which Roman, calls a very sinister move. So there's our setup. for the rest of the episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, making the most comfortable and versatile shorts, pants, and bathing suits in the entire world. I've been wearing them for several years now. They cannot be beaten. I wear them to sleep. I wear them to do yard work. I wear them to work out. I wear them to go swimming. I wear them to do everything. They fit great, they feel great, and they look great. They're just great shorts. I would argue the greatest. They even look great on my chicken leg having ass. Phenomenal shape to these shorts, Barrett.
Is there a lot of, you see a shape for yourself in these shorts?
I do.
Is what I'm hearing.
I do. I've got the Art Fart Knockers, the Duffy the Vampire Slayers, Uncle Bucks, and Teddy Rubskins, just to name a few. I've got like 10 more pairs, but check those Bird Dogs out.
Name all of them.
I will not. If you want to look like money while you're working out in the yard or swimming at the pool this summer, Bird Dogs are the move, friend, and their pants are great for the golf course, the boardroom, or the bar. Hashtag versatile. So click on the link in the description below to go to birddogs.com and enter the code OCC at checkout, and they will throw in a free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. That's birddogs.com, code OCC to make sure you look good all summer long, and you'll get a free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Birddogs.com, code OCC. So as they're boarding their planes to head out to Norway, as it were, Tom and Greg clarify for us that this is the annual Gojo retreat we are attending, which you will remember was brought up in episode 4, I believe, at the wake, right?
Yes.
So they're not going to Sweden, going to Norway. And as Tom puts it, what's the difference? It's all descended from the same rapists. Greg gets put on like the kids' plane after being excited for the Hungarian hotties, right? He's not on the executive plane, which is like the first, I mean, Greg has taken a lot of steps up this season,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
But he's still not quite on the big boy plane.
No, and he wasn't even invited on this trip, I don't believe.
He just kind of, he wasn't on the list,
that's
right?
He just kind of tags along because, he's part of the family.
The family.
What is that from? Why do I know that?
I think he was trying to do like an Italian mafia accent, but it's like from The Office. It's Michael Scott, right?
Okay, yes.
I think so.
That sounds right.
As Tom boards his plane, we see Carl and Frank both putting on compression socks.
Loved it.
Because you'll remember, Logan did not put on his compression socks in an effort to look sexy for Carrie, and he died as a result. There was so much good humor in this episode. It was one of the funniest, I think, ever. I took a half an edible before I watched it, and I was fucking dying laughing.
Yeah, there were, as always, every episode of Succession is like this for me, but this one especially, it's like being at a stand-up like a stand-up show.
Yeah.
You know how you leave seeing a comedian and you're like, oh my God, that was funny. And somebody's like, what was it? One of the jokes. And you're like, I had no idea.
Can't think of a single one.
Can't think of a single one. It was just hilarious. That's the way I feel like, and I'm trying to pocket them as I'm watching, like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I already dropped all the ones that I remember. This Scandi spread and let's not use the bad one, or let's not use the bad, go with the bad version. Really, really funny lines, great funny moments. I loved the compression socks here.
This was good. Shiv mentions to Kendall and Roman that she is struck by the number of pieces in the news knifing their dad and mentioning that his younger sons have been covering for him for quite some time. So just to reassure her that it wasn't him, Kendall calls in Hugo and tells him that if anyone is briefing anything against their dad, they'll fucking crucify them.
Classic. Very, very subtle, Ken.
Smooth criminal.
Also, just want to drop in a note here that, like, basically, as soon as Kendall walks in the building and he just starts, he's the all-time best at just like nonsense jargon buzzwords, throwing them around, just making everything like a little, a little euphemism, a little idiom, a little
puzzle
metaphor.
You have to solve. Yeah.
And these guys, he and Rome, but especially Kendall, could not be more thrilled to be like suffering in the misery of being a CEO.
Yes.
Like, he is just soaking it in. He's got to look at the briefs. He's got to look at the documents. He's neck deep in all of it. He's got graphs on the computer screen.
Death wrestling with ogres. You're looking at documents.
You're looking at documents, Ken. But yeah, so just some setup. I think we kind of knew that this was a possibility. We're all, audience included, we've all been kind of swept away by the promise of the Gojo deal and by the Pierce and the ATN of it all. But early sign right here that Kendall especially fucking loves being CEO.
Loves this job. Yeah. Ken also mentions the idea of cutting Tom's throat for Shiv, trying to like throw her a bone sort of by axing her husband, who she's obviously on the outs with. And they have this whole conversation Then we see that Tom is right on the other side of the wall in his glaringly white sneakers, Barrett. But that was another laugh out loud moment.
It was amazing,
for me,
yeah.
because he probably heard the entire
thing.
exchange.
Yes, 100%.
And they do not care. Carolina sets off all the other executives who aren't Roy's losing their minds because the staff of Gojo is all really impressive, very serious young people. NASDAQ master race, Barrett. So they're all freaking, like all of the non-Roys are terrified going into this, like that they're going to end up on this kill list. Jerry tries to bring morale up by saying, come on, guys, listen, sure, they're young and they're fit, but they're European, they're soft, hammocked in their Social Security safety nets, sick on vacation mania and free healthcare. They may think they're Vikings, but we've been raised by wolves, exposed to a pathogen that goes by the name Logan Roy, and they have no idea what's coming to them, okay? And Hugo responds, we're snakes on a plane.
This was basically they're going to do the like in Office Space, which I think you actually just name checked a minute ago.
Yes.
This is the Bobs.
Yeah.
They got to sit down with the Bobs.
What is it you would say you do here? Yeah. There were several Alexander Skarsgård kind of baked in inside jokes in this episode, by the way. Like Shiv drops an Iceman on the plane to Kendall, which was Skarsgård's name in Generation Kill, HBO show.
Okay.
All the blood talk at least plays in reference to his role as a vampire in True Blood.
That's right. I didn't even think about that.
And then there's more of them line, which he's referencing how many Roy family members are there present. But that is, of course, funny because there are at least 5 different Skarsgårds starring in big-budget Hollywood productions at any given moment. Like every time when I went and saw it, I was like, another Skarsgård? They're fucking everywhere.
Yeah, old Bill.
The boys, Kendall and Roman, are nervous in the car from the plane to the it's like it's a hotel, right, where this conference is taking place or the annual retreat is taking place. It is the Ex Machina Hotel. Like it's the same exact place that Ex Machina was filmed, and since I've seen that movie like 10 times, it flagged pretty immediately for me that it looked really, really similar.
Okay.
But then I saw it confirmed online. Same exact location, which now I really want to go to, even if the rooms are fucking small, Barrett.
I would also flag that anytime Succession does this shot right here that I'm about to describe, you know you are in for like one of the greats as far as episodes go. Everybody arrived to a location in various vehicles.
Yeah.
The camera pulls back and goes a little bit bird's eye, and they start playing like nice little dandy, like classical Succession-y music.
Yeah.
As everybody gets out and starts unloading their bags and like making their way to something. But they've used that for the weddings. They've used that for like the boar on the floor when they go to wherever Romania or wherever.
We've been to like 7 different countries at this point.
Whenever everybody goes off to one of these places, and then they do this little pullback. Everybody arrives. They're getting all their bags out. There's some laughs because, somebody's being a slapdick like Ray.
Yeah.
Like, you just know that good things are in store.
We have been to Scotland, Croatia, Hungary, Norway, Italy, Iceland for Kendall's rehab.
Yeah.
England, New Mexico, Virginia, California, Southampton, and New York. So,
God, I love HBO.
We've been to a lot of different places. Shiv reassures Kendall and Roman that every dollar they squeeze from the Swede makes them stronger when they do the Pierce ATN deal. So if you were one of the people wondering, like, is the whole Pierce acquisition still on the table? Apparently, yes. They're still gunning for that. Or at least Shiv is, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Kendall and Roman hop on the phone from their respective rooms to touch base. And that's when Kendall drops is yours small? Mine is fucking small. And Roman says when a bear shits in the woods, it uses one of these, I think. Which was just, it's a breathtaking hotel. The views from the rooms are absolutely absurd. And these two guys are just trying to get in the mindset of like, this dude is not better than us. These rooms are tiny. We fucking got this. Like there's several moments where you can see them trying to build up their egos to be big enough to match Matson's. So on the gondola up to the meet, Shiv drops the classic boxing/business quote, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth, which I remember hearing in like high school sports from coaches and shit.
Yes.
And Ken explains that if they bring in an offer lower than $144 billion, the net result would be unhappiness, and over $144 billion, the net result would be happiness. They're aiming for 147, hoping for 148. And he says all this to reassure Carl, who's like, do you guys need some advice? You want to like go back over everything that we're doing? Because he wants to make sure he gets his package. So Ken is reassuring them they're on the same page. It was still jarring to hear those numbers. But then I thought about it and I was like, well, Twitter got bought for $44 million, and that's one social media platform. So you would assume a company of this size and stature would be worth somewhere in the ballpark of $150 billion.
I actually think they're talking stock price here.
Per share.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's why at the end the number is absurd per share.
I wonder, do we ever get a reference point for like how many billions of dollars? I don't know if we do then, because they go off of that stock price the entire episode.
Yep.
Good call. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're correct there. Connor calls in from the funeral home, and apparently Marcia is trying to put Logan Roy in a kilt.
To your point, it might actually be near that 150 billion number, because I think there are generally like 10 million shares of companies when they IPO, and then sometimes that can split and do all that type of shit.
God knows where this company's at now.
Who actually knows? But I don't actually have a good frame of reference. It was we know that Pierce was just bought for $10 billion.
That's a good point.
But that's just a cable news network,
right?
So the Skarsgård, his price goes up nearly $40 a share at the beginning to include ATN.
Right.
So that's like 30% of the overall company. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of billions.
A lot of numbers.
A lot of billions.
Yeah.
I'll stop doing the table math, the napkin math before I make myself sound like an idiot.
But yeah, Connor calls in. Marcia wants to put Logan in a kilt. And just a reminder, this is one day after the wake. It has been 2 full days since Logan Roy died. And each episode of this season is 1 day. So the season takes place over 10 days, which is just shocking and insane when you really put it in perspective. Just 5 episodes in even. But we've got 5 more. So Roman specifically asks that Connor not send him photos of their late father, which Connor does not oblige and ends up doing anyway later in the episode.
Well, the thing about it is he's got carte blanche now. Yeah. So he can do whatever he wants.
The underlings, Tom and Hugo and Ray and the like, they all gather around a lovely brunch buffet type situation when they get ambushed by the Gojo execs.
Yes, yeah.
And Tom meets Oscar.
Oh, you took the bait. It's fatten you up for the kill.
But Oscar is the guy that answered the phone instead of Matson.
That's right.
When the kids were trying to get Matson on the phone, and
he's a burly man.
Yeah, and he was pretty hardcore on the phone, like insulting, laughing at them sort of under his breath and shit. So I was happy that we got to meet this guy. I wondered if we'd ever see who that actually was. And Oscar refers to Tom as Tom of Shaban, which is obviously not what Tom wants to hear. And he's like, and of ATN. But Tom tries to power play here and says he's like not really part of this whole situation. And he asks Oscar if he wants a little guide of their forest, the mighty oaks of Waystar and the Deadwood, just to give him a nod if he wants that to walk their forest, Barrett. So the A-team rolls in deep to meet Matson, who is hooded in some fancy fly fishing or rock climbing fashion throughout this episode.
Yeah, both. He's got on an anorak here with the hood up.
Yeah,
which is
hood up is interesting inside.
It's an interesting move.
It is.
Yeah. He's a wild card, Ross.
I liked it though. I liked it. I liked the ridiculousness of this character. Something about it vibes with me. But Matson hugs Kendall and Roman and then asks if he's going to get a lawsuit for hugging Shiv. And she's like, maybe. Want to find out? And he immediately starts like big dicking these dudes by asking if they were scared to come meet him without the village elders. He's very, very good at this. It was so spot on how things operate in like big business and in corporate America and whatnot. From all my experience there, Barrett, I can tell you.
Yes, yeah.
That, but there's just that like constant cockfighting to like get the upper hand over the other person especially when you're negotiating, right?
You gotta neg people a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Kendall and Roman go meet with Matson in private, where he thanks them for coming out, saying he knows it's not ideal, and Roman gives him a barb for forcing them to come out there a couple days after their dad died, right? And Matson responds with, at least you didn't find him yourself. BMW's still running. That shit can be traumatic, which I'm assuming is what happened to him.
Yeah.
That his dad committed suicide and he found him in the BMW with it still running. It was fucked up. And then he peels off his shirt, revealing his his abs, or I guess his Arc'teryx. Is that how it's pronounced? What is it?
I don't know if it was Arc'teryx, but yeah.
Whatever that hoodie that he had on was.
Yeah.
They get into the negotiations with Kendall and Roman's position being that they want more money, obviously, and Matson's position being that their stock dropped 20% after Logan's death, so he feels like he's going to the checkout during a sale and getting asked to pay more. Great line. And he ends up asking he's like, I've got a new proposition, essentially. I want to fold ATN into this deal, right? Like their dad had carved it out. He wants to buy their entire operation, ATN included, for the price of $1 single. Just to fuck with them, right? Then they say ATN is off the table, but Matson is insistent that he wants it back in. It's the original deal. They have the shape, Barrett.
Yeah,
we get another shape line in this one.
It works. Oh, it works.
They have the shape. He says he wants to pay like $187 per share. Okay. Just confirming that we were talking about share price earlier. So that's like $40 above where they were looking for. He says 50-50 cash stock for the whole thing. So they would get paid in 50% cash, 50% stock into the company that he would now own.
Yep.
So the boys break to take a beat, and they explain to the old guard where the negotiations stand. And the old guard is very pleased that the boys effectively achieved a bump here.
Yep.
Shiv approaches the guys and tells them that Mencken, the fascist presidential candidate's campaign team, is dialed into the editorial morning conferences at ATN, meaning that every morning when ATN has their editorial conference to get, what are we going to talk about today? What's going to be the programming? What's going to be on the news? Mencken's team is a part of that call, which is just like basically saying, in so many words, that the Republican Party, as it were here, has some degree of control over the news cycle at ATN, right? Roman, who seems to be, it's kind of like Kendall and Shiv are both assuming, like, you did this, you Mencken-loving fucker.
Right, yep.
And he puts it on Sid. He's just like, I don't know, Sid's going crazy over there. She's power hungry after Dad died. But when you think about this in a broader sense, like Matson is attempting to get ATN back into this deal, he would essentially be purchasing like a high level of political power in the United States of America as a, foreign CEO, which is just an interesting thing to think about.
Yep.
Greg and Tom meet to discuss their situation outside where people are shooting archery and flying drones. It looks fun as hell.
There's some axe throwing going on.
Yeah, I wish I was there, man. This looked tight. Greg informs Tom that Matson is pretty cold. He says, quote, when he's fucking randos, he does noise-canceling headphones, podcasts. He just lies back, cans on, watches him slide the beanpole. I fucking lost it. And apparently, that is a reference to Leonardo DiCaprio, who it has been rumored does noise-canceling headphones during coitus. Swear to God.
Okay.
Which makes it even funnier.
Where did you read that?
On the internet, man, where everybody reads everything. And everything on the internet is true, Barrett. Also, I hope he listens to OCC well.
I'm going to have to do some research.
While they slide the beanpole. Greg goes to talk to the three Roy siblings, trying to form the Quad Squad in an effort to get more information, and he calls it the Roy Patrol, the old team, the family. And Shiv responds, "The fuck?" Then Tom goes in and sits with the Gojo team. I loved this, him inserting himself super awkwardly into a table where he's clearly not wanted, where it's just 4 or 5 members of their squad discussing what they're doing with this deal, with the negotiations, and then Tom sits down. He doesn't even speak the fucking language. And they discuss whether or not France is going to make it, Barrett.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty deep political, philosophizing going on over here.
Yeah. Yeah, with the birth rate and whatnot.
With the birth rate, yeah. Yep.
Greg comes in bringing up The Economist and how he wouldn't bet against old lady France. And the Swedes end up mocking all these morons like in their native language, so none of them can understand. And that spurs Kendall to say, "Are you done?" Or, I don't know, maybe it's funnier with subtitles, which I love, subtitle line.
Good burn.
Good stuff. They again tell Matson that they want to keep ATN, which causes this back and forth of underhanded insults, including Matson calling Kendall Walter Guy, which is a season 1 reference, right? Just shows that the Swede has really done his homework, right? We saw Kendall and Roman researching Matson. They're trying to learn everything they can about this guy before they get out there.
Yeah, they want a leg up for sure.
And he did the same, clearly.
Yeah. And I thought this sit down here was, again, like if we're watching the game tape, right? We're evaluating the play. Kendall is also savvy. Matson is savvy, but Kendall is savvy in his own right. I thought that the point about like I did like, oh yeah, that's a good point. That's what I did when he mentioned that the deal is we don't want to let ATN go because you're offering us 50% stock and we think you don't understand the product. And if you tank it, then we're fucked.
We're losing a ton of value.
We're losing a ton of value here. So like he was doing, he was doing good looking at the documents there on the plane, I think, right? So
no, you're right, man. There were multiple moments throughout the episode where I was impressed by Kendall and Roman, which really had me questioning myself.
Yeah.
I was like, am I a moron? How am I buying this? I know these two guys. They can't be that good, but they do have something.
They have something
that they learned from their dad, right? Yep. And as you and I have discussed over the seasons, like each of these kids individually brings something to the table strategically as far as business goes.
Yep.
As human beings, they're all monstrous messes.
They lack some stuff.
But you had to hand it to Kendall in this episode. He did seem like he was handling aspects of this really, really well. But Matson shits all over ATN. He calls it a part shop, good parts, bad brand, and they kind of break from there. Then it's time for sauna with Oscar. Sauna. So a bunch of the lower executives end up in the sauna, Jerry included, which is funny. She looks so fucking miserable in there.
Oh, I did not catch
Jerry. Yeah, she's in the corner.
That's amazing.
But Frank and Carl sit outside in their robes, and they reminded me of the two old men
drinking scotch
on the Muppets. Those two old guys that are right.
Yeah, in the balcony.
Yes, yeah.
Just talking smack.
Yeah. Frank says, poor bastards.
Cracking wise.
Carl responds, hanging in the window like a Peking duck. So these two seem to think that, I guess it's either that they think they're not going to be let go or they don't care.
No, they don't care. They know they're probably out.
So they're just checked out.
That's what and that's why everybody's freaking out on the plane, at least the younger members of that old guard, is because they know that they're going to have to come dance for their food, basically.
Okay,
right?
Yeah. These two are just like so full of stock that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They know that they're probably not long for the world of the company.
Yeah, why would these young, fit, impressive people keep around these two old heads?
Ray,
right?
Meanwhile, has to try to show some value by lasting a long time in the sauna
and laughing as much as he can at jokes that aren't in his language.
Next to Oscar.
Yeah. Next, Matson introduces Shiv to Ebba, who he refers to as an estrogen air freshener, basically admitting we're a bunch of dude bros out here at Gojo, but we've got this chick to make us look good, right? Yep. And Ebba says that, don't worry about it. I keep notes, and when I walk, it's either going in my book or they'll have to pay me off, which is troubling just at face value, but becomes much more troubling when we find out what we find out later, that Matson has been sending her bricks of his blood. So that night, Kendall tells Roman that he wants to tank the deal. The whole deal, kill it, blow it up. He says, quote, I like running the ship. I think we're good at it, and I don't want to stop. I mean, do you? That's Kendall after being co-CEO for
1 day.
1 day.
1 day, yes.
One full day.
Can't get enough.
And Roman initially wants to preserve the deal because he sees it as his dad's deal.
Yep.
It's part of his legacy, right? Completing the deal would be completing his dad's life's work.
Right.
Finish his breakfast, as he puts it. But Ken eventually does talk him into tanking it. So at least for the time being, Roman wasn't that difficult to convince to get on his side. And I think it is in part because of what we see play out later, right? That he does not like this guy.
He doesn't like Matson.
He's not happy with the way he handled this.
Yeah, and the crumbs have been dropped here that all the way back to Roman, telling us that he'd already pre-grieved, right? But we know that was kind of bullshit. Now they're being called out on this kind of fool's errand 2 days after their dad died. They don't even get to bury him first. And it's all bubbling. He's stewing on this.
Yeah, it's grating on Roman for sure.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting to kind of watch him be pushed in that direction. We know that he's always kind of the dad loyalist in a sense.
Yeah.
But how much of the being CEO is actually playing into this here? Maybe not a lot. That seems way more of the Kendall bag.
Yeah, Kendall's angle. But But yeah, moving on. If you saw Alexander Skarsgård's abs in this episode and like me told yourself it was time to up your healthiness game, today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, is for you. Why take a bunch of different things when you can mix just one scoop of powder in water once a day? Their flagship product, AG1, was designed with ease in mind so you can live healthier and better without having to do too much. It's the healthiest thing you can do in under a minute for the deal-making media mogul in your life or the everyday grind boy or grind girl. AG1 has been a part of millions of mornings since 2010, and in my personal time using it, I've noticed an increase in energy, mood support, and most of all, better overall digestion. The goal of Athletic Greens is to make it easier for you to live your best life. If you want better gut health, immune system support, hate taking a bunch of different pills and vitamins, and want something that tastes great, AG1 has you covered. If you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to athleticgreens.com/dragon. That's athleticgreens.com/dragon to support our show and your body at the same time like a real executive baller should. Go to athleticgreens.com/dragon today. So Matson meets with Shiv privately and kind of starts like hitting on her.
There's some sexual tension there, for sure.
He says he doesn't have good boundaries and that he's doing it now.
He does say that, yeah.
Which is basically like saying, like, I shouldn't even have brought you here just to talk to you by myself. It's so dangerous. We're being so bad together.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he's too sexy.
Yeah.
And that would be the main reason that
the main deterrent in you considering a relationship with him. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so big points though. Shiv has a whiskey in hand, which is interesting because we know she's pregnant. And they slipped in the, how before the episode starts, they always do like here's what we've seen that matters in this episode, right? The very end of it was her getting the call about her 20-week appointment. And I was curious, like, how is that going to come up in this episode? Mm-hmm. And here it was. They've got her with a whiskey in hand. And ironically, she and the boys, Kendall and Roman, have flip-flopped where the boys are now trying to blow up the deal and the little princess is trying to get it across the finish line.
Or the little princess is sabotaging the deal just like Carl said he would, and Shiv had nothing to do with it.
Maybe. But I believe the old guard...
Just presenting both angles.
Yeah, that's fair. The old guard, in my opinion, will end up wishing they had chosen the little Princess Barrett because she is now the one that's doing what they wanted to happen versus the guys.
Possibly.
I'm only 10% joking. Shiv tells Matson that basically a meaningful bump gets him over the line in closing the deal for all of Waystar, ATN included. And speaking of bumps, Matson starts doing blow and tells Shiv.
Yeah. Now, I probably blow. Also, maybe ketamine or some other weird stuff that, high-end drug users use.
I don't know if you could do, go into a K-hole and hold a proper conversation like this, though.
All right. Yeah.
It seemed like the most likely drug here was cocaine because it's a social drug, right? They could both do it and, it is one of those things that it makes you talk a lot and makes your, brain fire at a higher speed or whatever. So now, that's what I read it as.
We're going to come back to this, but I would note that they follow the whiskey glass from Shiv's hand down to set on the table, and then we watch her essentially just toy around with the drugs when he hands it to her.
Yeah.
All of which is I read as her kind of feigning participation here.
100% agree.
Yeah.
It looked like, even with the drink, she would press it to her lips, but not actually
maybe not
sip
actually
it.
Take any, yeah.
And with the drugs, they very intentionally showed us, it looked like she was going to, scoop a bump out of there, get a key bump or whatever, and then she doesn't. You don't see her snort anything.
Right.
So I thought that was, I was with you. Because at first I was like, Shiv, no!
Yeah.
What are you doing? Think of the baby!
Right. Loved her 3-point plan, her PR plan for Matson here.
And this one might be hard for you.
Stop sending people bricks of your blood.
The guy's a lunatic. So he starts doing blow, and then he's telling Shiv all about Ebba, that he was dating her. Again, this is his head of comms.
Yeah.
They broke up, and then as a sort of nasty, friendly joke about what he shouldn't do, he sent her some of his blood. a half a liter frozen blood brick as a joke, obviously. And then he just kept doing it again and again and again, and it became not a joke and then a joke again, and now apparently it's not a joke.
Not a joke. No,
it doesn't. It's not a funny joke.
And it's not going to look good in the U.S. media markets. You know, if you're a creepy coder guy sitting in the dark
with an IV drip.
With an IV drip going.
Blood drip, yeah. No, that was, I mean, because I was wondering, like, where are they going to go with this? Are they just doing the general, like, high-powered executives tend to commit, harassment of some kind? And it does tie in where not only, does Shiv points out the obvious, like, hey, man, you're buying an American news network. They are going to have at you in the media.
Yep.
But also, Shiv now has this very powerful bargaining chip, this piece of information that she chooses not to share with Kendall and Roman about Matson, which, again, kind of takes, it's like the drinking and the drugs. Like, I don't think he would have told her this had he not been high off his ass,
right. He is indulging.
Dangerous.
Yeah, he's imbibing.
Dangerous information.
Meanwhile, there's raves going on. There's Molly being passed around. There's, like you said, this place looks great.
Yeah, it's a party out there.
It's a party.
Pupils are being dilated, Barrett. Matson ends up comparing Shiv to her father, Logan, which Shiv just eats up. She's just like, yes, that's what I wanted. Tell me I'm my daddy. And we basically leave that meeting without really knowing exactly, how it ended between Matson and Shiv. But again, I thought they were going to bone. I don't think they did.
I don't think they did either.
But she did leave with some really, really powerful information.
Yes, and let's put a pin in it because we'll come back to it at the end of the episode.
So Kendall gives Greg a phone and tells him basically, you're going to get a call from this journalist. You tell the journalist the truth, that nobody is getting along, the two cultures don't mesh, the deal vibes are bad.
Yeah.
And it's a huge moment for Greg.
Oh, yeah.
It's Quad Squad type shit.
Quad Squad type shit.
Yeah. Kendall also, I love the show when Kendall and Greg are working together just as much as I do when Tom and Greg are working together, so we can't lose right now. Kendall goes and has his assistant set up so that the Swedes can screen the full 3 hours of Callispatron. So basically, this is another piece of his strategy to blow up the deal. Well, I'll show them how bad this movie is that we're on the hook for $250 million, right? And Shiv runs into Tom and roasts him off the face of the earth. She says, Tom has been getting it this season, dude.
Yeah.
She says, you should be careful, Tom, because people are coming down from Molly and their pupils are dilated and your shoes are like looking at the sun. No, they're dangerous. This is why people don't take you seriously, because your shoes are so fucking white. And Tom grabs her ear and says, your earlobes are thick and chewy. Yeah, like barnacle meat. One of my favorite exchanges ever on this show.
Just her trying to stomp his shoes and kick dirt onto them. It was amazing. It's amazing.
Did you flag the type of shoes by chance?
Well, I saw today at Succession Fashion that they are Todd's.
Todd's.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah. Generally known for their loafers.
Okay.
And kind of like leather goods, but they also do quite a range of sneakers.
Oh yeah, I'm on the, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go, wow. Yeah.
I immediately I thought it was pretty clear watching them kind of like, throw these stones at each other.
Yeah.
That this was first grade flirtation type stuff. This was pulling the girl that you like's pigtails a little bit. Tom almost literally does that, right? By like flicking her ear.
Yeah.
And so it was,
First I thought he slapped her in the face. I was like, Jesus, dude.
It was salty. They were trading insults, but like they were talking.
Kind of back to their old ways, right?
Back a little bit back to their old ways, maybe exercising some of the pain that they feel in that way as well. And like the communication was like, I think really, because Shiv had kind of been giving him the cold shoulder, right? Not wanting to talk to him, brushing him off, not even acknowledging him, going to the other room. And so I thought that, I kind of read this little back and forth between them, this banter as positive for their relationship moving forward.
Also, Shiv just kind of taking the power back, right? As we see later in the episode, she's really manipulative in this one. She does a good job for everybody who was down last week about Shiv and her kind of getting shelved. If you're a big Shiv fan, this was a big episode for you because she made a lot of moves. She was pretty savvy too, just like Kendall was, right? So on the way up to their meeting with Matson, Roman receives a photo of his dead father from his brother Connor and is like seriously rattled, which you have to think contributes to the outcome here at the summit somewhat, right? And they get up there, and Matson is immediately onto the boys and what they are doing, trying to tank the deal based on how bad the movie is. They sent him a link to it. He didn't even watch it with the others, right?
They're not subtle.
No.
They, for the description that Kendall gives earlier, the tightrope walk on a straight
razor wire or whatever, yeah.
They do not walk that tightrope very well.
No, it's 500-foot reputational drop.
500-foot reputational drop, and to me, they are just slipping off of it and landing with their legs on either side, razor just straight into the groin area.
Yeah.
Because just like it just seemed like you could have had more tact than doing something as kind of blatant as being like, hey, I know we're about to do this deal, but boy, this one thing that we got cooking, it is dog shit.
Yeah, it is a mess.
It is a mess. Like nobody would do that in this type of high stakes business deal. Like nobody's going to open the kimono like that.
No, they try to pass it off as being open, but he sees right through it. Yeah. Right? It just totally devolves from here, where Matson tells them point blank, I much preferred dealing with your dad. He says he was a prick, but at least he knew what he wanted. And him calling their dad a prick definitely sends Roman closer to the edge. And then Matson tells them that he thinks Logan would be embarrassed if he saw them right now, calls them like his big boys, and then suggests that he's going to go around these two morons and go straight to the board, which is a very real problem for Kendall and Roman, right?
Yes, this is exactly what they can't have happen.
It's what they wanted to avoid entirely. So then Matson kind of wanders off to take a piss, and Roman goes ballistic on this dude while he's peeing. He calls him an inhuman fucking dog man, accuses him of being the one who killed Logan by dragging this out for 6 fucking months, tells him to shut the fuck up and that they're not selling to him, tells him he fucking hates him, and that if he tells the board he said any of this, he'll just tell the board that it was a negotiating tactic, which it's not. And Matson responds like, you just fucked yourself good. As if he's like... This is one of the key points in the episode that I was like, okay, is he just saying that because he's just been bitched out, like you just fucked yourself, or is something that Roman just said actually going to serve to screw Kendall and Roman?
I think he's saying that you fucked yourself because he basically now has what he thinks he needs to tell the board that these dipshits are sabotaging the deal.
Right, okay.
Like he literally just acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Roman, and that's why Roman's comeback is like, tell them, like, I'll say it's a negotiating tactic, but Matson essentially, like, I mean, the truth is, this actually ends up playing for everybody.
Right, yeah.
Roman does kind of fuck himself, but he also does back Matson into a corner.
Right, where he's either going to have to come with a crazy high number or it's over, right? Roman also calls him a stupid C word and a piece of shit as he walks away. Then they're on the flight home, right? Frank gets a call from Matson, so Matson's got a direct line to Frank, right, who's on the board, and Matson tells Frank that his revised offer is 192, so 192 per share.
Yep.
And the old guard celebrates hard, and Kendall and Roman kind of, like, at least when they're interacting with everyone else, they act like this was their plan all along, to drive the price of the deal up as high as possible, right?
They went to bleed the Swede, and they bled the sweat. Yeah.
And Shiv approaches Tom and tells him that they're looking to get rid of Sid at ATN, that she got too close to Mencken, and that Tom can be the one to let her know, sort of implying you're going to replace her, right?
Yeah.
And that they should get dinner when they get back. So really patching things up here with her husband in the end, to point to your earlier points about them sort of flirting, right? Getting back to the old schoolyard interaction. But I still feel like Shiv has got something going on here because, like, just to close things out and then we can discuss. Matson calls Shiv directly and asks her to send him a photo of Kendall and Roman's faces because he knows they'll be devastated and pissed off, right? Which we see that they very clearly are. Then the kill list gets leaked and Ray is on it.
Poor Ray.
God damn it. Mark is on it. Hugo is on it. Frank is on it. Carl is on it. Of course, the latter two are not concerned at all. They're, and then Carolina.
Let the good times roll, baby.
Yeah. Carolina and Jerry are not on it, so they're retained. Tom is not on the list either. But I would note specifically, Jerry and Carolina were saved by Shiv. If you're wondering, like, why would old-ass Jerry not get axed with Tom or with Frank and Carl? Shiv specifically says, like, Jerry would be good for this with regard to the Ebba issue that Matson has. And Carolina is a little bit younger and sort of savvy, too. And Shiv also, he says, how's your Carolina?
She says, right.
And she says she's great.
She's great.
So I think Shiv saved their 2 jobs right there.
Yep.
Tom is married to Shiv for the time being. I think that's what saved him. And because it's not like he was impressive at that fucking table.
Yeah.
But the episode closes with the little princess, Shiv, toasting Kendall and Roman with champagne, and she gives like this mischievous look as it like cuts to the credits. And so, face value, there is a lot to take away from this. I'm not going to go on some crazy conspiracy theory like I did last week, okay? For those of you who
not going to do what everybody thinks I'm going to do.
And freak out, man. But who's coming with me? No, so I did wonder, like, what is her position in this all? So she's been scorned, right?
Yeah.
She's not a part of this co-CEO team. She wants to be across everything, but as we see from the beginning of the episode, only one day later, she's already like, why am I not getting these emails? Why am I not in the room for this meeting? Why have I not been informed, right? So she's been rubbed the wrong way a little bit already, which is shockingly fast that they were not able to keep her at least feeling good about it for a fucking day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it was just that she was never going to be okay with
right,
this,
exactly. And that's what I would add is that just the fact that she doesn't share the same title as them, I think was always going to be like it's just the optics of it. They're the CEOs and she's not. She's not going to be included and invited to every single meeting, even if it's by accident. You know what I mean? And so this was always bound to like rub her, like to be a chip on her shoulder.
And I don't necessarily think that Shiv is like the full blown Democrat or liberal that she presented as in season 1. I think that was a little bit of that was like trying to get under daddy's skin, right?
Sure.
But she is the most left-leaning member of this trio, obviously Roman being the far right, Kendall maybe a little more towards the indifferent or middle. And when they tell her like he's trying to get ATN as well, she's like, fuck it, throw it in, get rid of it. It's a toxic brand because she doesn't align with what ATN has going on,
no,
right?
And has constantly voiced the kind of concern about like the threat to democracy that a major news media outlet like having a direct line to a president or presidential candidate kind of creates.
Right.
Like, all that type of concern. Like she's not about that.
So I think she really is okay with selling all this,
totally.
And she does want to move on to the Pierce part of her life, right? Which is on the side that aligns with her beliefs a little bit more, I think. I just think it's like, here's my question to you. Does this deal go through? Does Matson purchase any of this company?
Okay. It's really hard to say. And as soon as this episode ended, that's what I looked over to Laura, and like that was the first question I had. I was like, okay, it seems like they just got like the boys, the big boys.
Yeah.
Seems like they just got. Like,
they got outplayed.
I don't know. The information leaked to the board. The number is the number. They can't control the narrative anymore.
Well, think about it. They cannot respond negatively on that plane.
Right.
The board directly, Frank, direct line from Matson, has just been told, here's the number. Kendall and Roman can't go, no, fuck that, we're keeping ATN, because at that point it's like malpractice, right? They will get sued.
They'll get sued. And
if
they don't have
shoot down
they
this
don't
deal.
have the numbers anyway.
Right.
The board will vote it through.
Roman even references, like, if a deal dies in the woods, is there still an SEC hearing or whatever? He makes that joke because it's a similar thing that what happened with Elon Musk and Twitter, where he said $44 billion. And at that point, if they rejected the deal, the purchase, they would be doing a disservice to their stockholders, and they would have gotten sued into the ground.
Yep.
So you kind of get in this position as a public company where you have no choice at a certain dollar amount.
Yep.
And that's the amount Matson came back with.
So that is what it seemed like to me.
Right.
Now, we only get glimpses of in our like scenes from the rest of the season. It seems like maybe they have one or two more moves up their sleeve. But as it stands right now, I think that you have to leave this episode thinking that the sale will go through.
Because how would they blow it up, right?
Because I don't totally understand how they would blow it up unless they essentially get Matson to back out of the deal.
Now that I'm asking the question, Ebba.
Sure.
The Ebba information that Shiv has could definitely, I don't know why they would lay out all this blood brick crap if it wasn't going to come back into play on some level.
Yeah.
It's the only chink in his armor so far where you're like, this is a weak point. You made a terrible mistake by revealing this information to the sister of the two co-CEOs.
Yep.
I think that could be it. But my impression on Kendall and Roman's faces looks like two guys who are extremely pissed off that they just got outplayed.
Yeah, they've definitely lost this round.
Yeah.
For sure. And they're going to have to go back to the drawing board to try to figure something out if they want to keep Waystar. Let me move on to a big question that I have.
Yeah.
We obviously don't see the end of that Shiv conversation with Matson. So now my takeaway was that there was a lot more that happened in that conversation. I feel like she potentially saved Tom's job in that room as well.
I agree.
And I even wonder, she states the kind of obvious, like, throw more money at it and you'll get the deal.
Right.
Like, that's, a significant bump. He's like, oh, really? Thanks.
I keep going up in price. I'll eventually get it. Yeah.
But I also, part of me wonders if she had, an inkling that Kendall and Roman would waffle on the deal. And if Matson was at any point kind of like teed up to be expecting them to torpedo it. My overall sense was that Shiv kind of bought herself a position through good intel and kind of just savvy move making as at least some type of advisor around this whole thing.
Well,
she's got her arms around it.
You must, on some level, you have to be right, because when she comes into that room on the plane and tells Tom, Sid is out, we want you to do it. She even says, I'm not happy. She has to have been told by Matson then, like, I'm going to let you run ATN or something. Because why would she have the authority to go tell Tom to fire Sid unless she had been explicitly told this by Matson in that room? So I think you're right. Definitely more happened there. I'm just curious, like, if that would be the end game for her, carving out that she gets to stay on with Matson or be in some type of advisory role even or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. But to kind of circle it back to Kendall and Roman as well, like, I am under the impression that Kendall will do everything he can to keep Matson from buying this company when it's all said and done. So I don't know how that plays out over the next few episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time believing that dude is just like, whoop, that's it, I got beat.
Yeah, no, I don't think the next 5 episodes are them, the 3 kids going off to do the Pierce deal.
Yeah, the deal going through and then them going to buy Pierce, right? So we'll see where it goes from here. But this was another one that, like, when it ended, when the credits rolled, I was just like, God damn, like almost slow clap, like just like, wow, that was unbelievably compelling.
It really
the entire time. And hilarious, and just like had me on the edge of my seat wondering what the fuck was going to happen. And it wasn't just the edible. That was amazing, man. This, again, just to take it, I may have said this on Patreon. I can't remember what episode it was on, but like you kept mentioning like Succession is in your top 3, top 5 favorite shows of all time. And I kind of scoffed at that. Like, come on, man, that's a little extreme. With every passing episode, I've been like, yeah, okay. No, for sure. I mean, because it like, this is sort of how every season has gone on some level, where the further we get into the season, the more impressed I am by the show and the storytelling and the writing and the acting.
Yeah.
But this one in particular, where I'm just like, this is unbelievable through 5 episodes. And I don't think there's much bad you could say about this so far. Like if your whole thing was that you were like me and you didn't just want to watch the same story unfold again, you got to be happy with all the new angles they've found. We're doing all the classic Succession stuff at the same time, though. We're going to these exotic, badass locales. You've got the fashion, you've got the quips, the jokes. I mean, it's been awesome. And they inserted like another level of emotional shit with Logan's death and everybody dealing with the grieving in the mourning.
Totally.
They've crushed this so far and really found a shape for themselves.
I think they really did.
Yeah. We'd appreciate it if all season long you'd continue to support our sponsors by using our dedicated URLs and codes. That is how we pay the bills here at Oyster Clam Co. Today we had Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com and use code OCC to get yourself a free Yeti-style tumbler with your purchase, and go to athleticgreens.com/dragon to support our show and your body at the same time. Sponsors, support them all season long. And if you're looking for more coverage of Succession's final season, remember, we do an exclusive ad-free episode every week driven by hotline calls from the Oyster Clam Co. board members, as we call them, on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles. Subscribe on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles for as little as $5 a month to support our show and enjoy so much more exclusive OCC content ad-free. When you join, you'll immediately gain access to our entire backlog of episodes, including the first 4 bonus episodes for Succession Season 4. And obviously this Thursday we'll be doing episode 5's bonus episode, but also including all of our The Last of Us Hotline Call episodes, bonus coverage for Season 1 of The House of the Dragon and The White Lotus Season 2, and you will gain access to our entire companion podcast for HBO's classic crime drama The Sopranos, friendly to both first-timers and rewatchers. That's on top of all of our Succession coverage that you're interested in at the moment. So go to patreon.com/oystersclamscockles today. And if you're an F1 fan, check out Bolin Media's premier F1 programming, Formula Bone, at youtube.com/@FormulaBone and @FormulaBone on all the social medias. And finally, for more from me, Ross Bolin, listen to the Ross Bolin podcast wherever podcasts are played, or watch on youtube.com/@the-Ross-Bolin podcast. Follow Mr. Barrett Dudley @BarrettDudley on Instagram and Twitter. Give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter @WRBolin, and go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. We've got a lot of good, solid new Succession designs, and Succession-inspired designs, I should say, hitting the shelves on bolinmedia.com/shop. We've got the Oysters, Clams, and Cockles strike-through underline design. We've got one that's just the straight-up Kendall Logan Roy strike-through or underline. We've got the Disgusting Brothers World Tour 2023 coming out later today or tomorrow. Not sure yet, but the design looks great so far. Very excited for that. bolinmedia.com/shop.
Did you see that I had a very similar, very scary line drawing through experience at a dinner that I went to?
I saw this on your Instagram story. Yeah.
So you got to be really, really clear when you strike through something. Otherwise, you create a lot of just a lot of
confusion
for people out there.
You can't let an 84-year-old do your striking through or your underlining. Yeah. Everybody knows that. Too shaky of hands. We'll be back, Barrett and I. We'll be back on Thursday on Patreon to further digest and discuss episode 5 of season 4. But thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thanks for supporting the show. And until next time, fuck off.